Hi everyone, do you remember we've spoken about the composition of the earth? Do you also remember we spoke about the different layers of the earth? We're going to look at that again today. We're going to compare the thickness of these different layers. Now here is the barosphere. Do you remember that barosphere comes from the Greek word meaning heavy ball? Around the barosphere, we have the lithosphere. And the lithosphere comes from the Greek word lithos, meaning stone. And who lives on the lithosphere? We do. That's right. We walk on the lithosphere. It's our ground, our earth. On top of the lithosphere, there's a really, really thin layer, and that's called the hydrosphere. And that's all the water in the earth, in rivers and dams and lakes. Do you remember that? Lastly, the last very, very thin layer is called the atmosphere. Now let's think about it. Our earth is enormous. Remember, if we had our magic car, it would have taken us 10 days to drive around the circumference of our earth. But what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the diameter of each layer. So if we had a circle and we had to draw a line from one side of the circle to the other side of the circle, that measurement would be the diameter. Okay, so we're going to look at that. Remember, if we had to go all the way around this way, that's the circumference. So we're going to look at the diameter today. Now, the diameter of the earth is 12,900 kilometers. That's enormous. The lithosphere is 36 kilometers thick. This lithosphere is 36 kilometers thick. The hydrosphere is 4 kilometers thick. Now, what I'd like you to do with your mom and dad is when you're in the car with them, ask them to measure 1 kilometer with you. And then you can see, or you can imagine, if that is 1 kilometer, how big is 4 kilometers? How big is 36 kilometers? And how big is 12,900 kilometers? Now, those are huge, huge quantities for us to work with. So we're going to imagine something. Can you imagine that we shrunk our earth so that instead of the diameter being 12,900 kilometers, it was 1 meter? This is a meter stick. This stick is exactly 1 meter. Imagine shrinking our earth to that. If the earth's diameter was 1 meter, then the lithosphere wouldn't be 36 kilometers. It would only be 1.5 centimeters. It would be that big. Can you see how small that is? Can you imagine if the earth's diameter was 1 meter, then the hydrosphere would only be 7 millimeters, which is just past this line over here. Now, if the earth's diameter was 1 meter and the lithosphere was 1.5 centimeters and the hydrosphere was 7 millimeters, the atmosphere would only be 2 millimeters. That would just be over there. You should have a ruler in your stationery pack, and you could measure and see the difference between 1.5 centimeters, 7 millimeters, and 2 millimeters. If you find it tricky, we can help you. You might be wondering to yourself, how come we don't fall off the earth? But the answer to that is quite simple. The barosphere, the heavy ball, is pulling everything in towards itself. It's pulling in the lithosphere, the hydrosphere, and the atmosphere, and everything that walks above it. This force is kind of like what a magnet does. Here I have a magnet, and here I have some paper. Here I have a paper clip. Even though I'm not holding the paper clip and there's paper in between the magnet, it is still pulling the paper clip towards itself. You see, the barosphere pulls everything towards itself. Everything pulls down. I wonder if that's really true. Why don't you go and see? If you throw something up in the air, will it come down? Are there things that throw up, that you can throw up and they just keep going and going and going? Why don't you test that? See if everything is really, truly pulled to the center of the barosphere. Have a lovely day. Thanks for watching.